What's up, my ninjas? I'm Strydent, and I am here with a random video. It's much lighter than the last one, I promise. Um, I just been, doing my usual, you know, work, then freelance work, then family work, then, putz around on the internet. So, especially YouTube. So, yeah, there's a few pages or YouTube pages that I like to stay I like to use to stay abreast in what's going on in comics and whatnot. And sometimes there's some with video games and some with other things, and but with comics sometimes I find myself in a love-hate relationship with Stacktastic, that show with Grace Randolph, because like at first I liked that she represented a different she represents a different demographic. Typically you have the comic book fans that just love comics and they don't care what is given to them. Everything is awesome or it sucks. Then you have the demographic that's a little bit more discriminatory about their comics, and they have actual likes and dislikes, and they point out what's wrong with the industry. They don't just needlessly love every aspect of every comic that's released. And in the beginning I thought that was Grace. It seemed like she always had a fairly realistic view on comics, but then every now and then she'll say something. Actually, most of the time I'm finding her saying things that I'm just like, damn it, I can't believe you think that. And it's weird because she has good topics, and it usually makes me want to see what she has to say and see what's said about this topic. But then before the end of the video, by the middle of the video, I'm pissed off because I'm like, wow, that didn't make any sense, or how did you come to that conclusion? Case in point is today I check out Stacktastic, and she's talking about Scott's reaction to that image of Jean Grey that he's seeing in Avengers versus the latest issue of Avengers versus X-Men. And he shed a tear, and she's all about the Emma Frost relationship with Scott Summers. And she says that Jean Grey was too one-dimensional, and that Grant Morrison made her a character that could burn you both physically and emotionally, because she was so powerful that she saw characters like Scott, or people like Scott, as weak, and she had problems with her emotions. Now, for those of us who didn't just start reading X-Men, as in like not when Grant Morrison started writing it, if you've been reading her X-Men longer than that, that Jean, she wasn't always like that. Grace also mentioned how she hated her girl next door, personality, which is unrealistic because it doesn't exist. I married a girl next door type, and they exist. Tons of them. You ever go to the Midwest and they freaking breed them here, especially in the more rural parts. And I'm from the city, so this is one of those things that I was looking for. So I'm like, why? I get it. She's jaded, and that's how she came to her conclusion. But don't mislead comic book readers into believing that a character who's well established for over 30 years is only what you came to the conclusion of. You know what I'm saying? Like, you came to that conclusion but because you have a bias. If you've read X-Men from back in the day, Jean was always the kind of character that was struggling with the fact that she was potentially one of the most powerful characters on the planet. This was one of the reasons why X-Men was big for me back in the day. I read X-Men thoroughly from my childhood all the way through its peak, which to me was the 90s. And then I finished Age of Apocalypse, and then I stopped when the movies came out. After the movies came out, I was completely done, because to me, Grant Morrison and the other dude, Ellis, I think it was, they fucked up X-Men something fierce. But a lot of people don't agree with me. But I think they put too much of this. They try too hard to create their own thing out of X-Men, that even though they brought up some good points, they marred some characters that were already well developed, and all you need to do is put them, you know, in these awesome stories or in these good situations. But anyway, back to Jean Grey though. You know, I'm hearing Grace say Jean Grey is one-dimensional, even after she points out what, you know, Grant Morrison did with the character. He added another piece of depth which helps you understand why their relationship failed. Because if you had been reading X-Men since the 80s, it kind of is like, how did their relationship fail? I mean, like, she could have died, but like, how could he, why would he cheat on her with skanky ass Emma Frost? You know what I mean? He has this goddess of a woman, and it's like, why would he go elsewhere? And then when you see this added dimension to her character, the fact that she's a little callous and she kind of sees herself as a little bit better than everyone, well, a lot better than everyone else, and it's something that only those who see her in private and, you know, get to see her when she's, you know, at kind of like, I guess, at her worst, you get to see that side. That's cool because that's dimension, you know, it's a facet to the personality of the character. That helps you understand why Scott, being the Boy Scout that he was, ended up going to the next telepath that he could find. I never agreed with it being the White Queen because she's a villain. She's been a villain for so long. I never bought the whole, like, you know, hooker turned super villain turned whatever she is turned X-Men. That always seems so weird to me. I mean, like, if you read X-Men since back in the day, you know, 60s, 70s, 80s, she was definitely a villain. She was like 100% a villain. If you play old X-Men video games, that old X-Men 6-player video game that we just got not too long ago on the network, I think it was like a year or two ago, on the PlayStation Network and on the Xbox Live Arcade, she was one of the featured villains. So, you know, to see her with the, like, the Boy Scout, you know, poster child of the X-Men always irked me. But yeah, so, you know, love-hate relationship with Stacktastic. Grace Randolph brings up some good points, but then her perspective on those points is always flawed, you know? She talks about sexism in comics, and she always points out how she hates the books where the women are scantily clad, and then she goes, do you have to deal with that as men? And I'm like, yes, Namor runs around in fucking Speedos, and I think in the new one he's running around in Speedos and chaps. Come on now. Hercules for a long time ran around in like no clothes. Matter of fact, 95% of the superheroes that we grew up with ran around in like underwear and like no shirt and a cape. You know what I mean? Or tights and underwear and shit like that. You know, Captain America, all of them, tights, underwear, everything. The artist practically drew a nude body, colored them different colors, and then, you know, drew lines to separate parts of the costume. So, you know, shit she's saying, you know, Conan, like I got pictured here. I'm a Conan fan. I never complained that this dude's muscular and half naked. It's fucking, everybody's half naked. They're all barbarians and shit. So the whole sexism thing, to bring it up in this day and age in comics, as lame as comics have been lately, you know, like, they're not really hitting us as hard as they once did. So I don't understand how she can pull that card sometimes. So, you know, stuff like that usually turns me off about her videos. So if you guys know someone who is a little bit more thorough and more realistic about their perspective in comics, please point me in the direction of those people, because I'm starting to get annoyed with these kind of, you know, issues. You know, sometimes I'm not going to unsubscribe, but, you know, I think I'm going to watch, you know, sparingly, just so I don't go crazy. Other stuff. I've been planning and I'm working on a video about the martial arts industry, because martial arts film industry. Because after I saw The Raid, I realized that there's like a handful of people in the U.S. that are kind of single-handedly carrying the torch as far as martial arts movies go here, and the same goes for Hong Kong. It seems like over in Malaysia or Indonesia, etc., even Thailand and whatnot, well, I guess I should say in that region, because I just named a whole bunch of related places. But anyway, in that region, they're taking the martial arts business back, and they're adding what's missing from Hong Kong films, And I wanted to explore that. You know, my homeboy Agent O and I, we've been martial artists for a long time, and we've trained together. We fought, you know, together. We fought each other, and we also have pretty, you know, extensive martial arts movie collections, because that's been a passion. And you know, for me, I wanted to be a stuntman for a long time, and then when I realized the prejudice involved, that kind of steered me away from it. And also, you know, it's pretty taxing. And since I draw, I got to maintain the use of my hands. So I kind of steered away from it, but I still keep abreast in what's going on in the martial arts world. And I've been paying a lot of attention to Donnie Yen. Donnie Yen is like the truth. You know, my favorite martial artist of all time, you know, next to Bruce Lee, of course, is Sammo Hung. Sammo Hung is one of those guys that's been keeping martial arts movies alive as well, training new people and getting choreographing some of these newer martial arts films and whatnot. And he inspired a lot of other people, as well as being inspired by Bruce Lee. If you don't know Sammo Hung, he's the fat guy who got his ass whooped in the beginning of Enter the Dragon, when they were fighting in the like underwear and the big kendo gloves. But anyway, back to Donnie Yen. Donnie Yen seems to be the guy who's holding it down for the martial arts film genre in Hong Kong, most of China in general, or Asia in general. His movies have this like, over the years, they've kind of transformed into this kind of hard-hitting, almost retro, you know, early 90s, late 80s, you know, renaissance of martial arts films. And it's really slick to see, because this dude hits hard, and a lot of his actors hit hard, take hard falls. You know, it's the old basic shit. It's not a lot of wires. And he's had a fight with Sammo Hung, and it was amazing. And I don't know, he's someone to look out for. But I'm going to go into detail about all this stuff in another video. Also, I need to do a review on Garo Makai Senki. That series is amazing, because it just continues all the greatness from regular Garo. But I'll go into detail about that. There are flaws, but, you know, overall, the series is still light years above all the other tokusatsu shit that's out there right now. And I never reviewed Kamen Rider. I never reviewed Kamen Rider Fies. You know, 555. For whatever reason, you know, after I asked you guys for help on places to find the figures for a decent price and all that stuff, and then I got the whole series, got the movie, got 2 SH Figure Arts Fieses and a SIC KT version, regular Fies, you know, and Autofajin, and I did a review on those, so you can check those out. I just never went back and reviewed the series, and I want to. I started, I just, you know, I got sidetracked, so I will be coming back to do that. And I am currently reviewing the Soda Street Fighter figures, the whole collection. I want to do like a super review. It might be pretty long, but I'm not taking too many. I'm not overdoing the pictures, because, you know, the Shotos all share the same body, except for Akuma and Goken. They share the same body, but Ken and Ryu and Evil Ryu do not. They don't share the same body as Goken and Akuma. Ken and Ryu, though, and Evil Ryu, they share the same body. But anyway, long story short is I'm reviewing them. I'm not going to overdo it, because since it's going to be a big clusterfuck of a review in a good way, I want to, you know, keep the variety going. So look forward to that. And then also I have, what was I going to say? I have music in fighting games part 2. I've mentioned it before in the last video, and I think I mentioned it in the last video, but if I didn't, I'm almost done with it. It's kind of long. It's one of the longer videos, because I figured you guys been waiting for a minute for it, and, you know, I tried to put in a lot. I focused on a couple subjects, you know, but it's there. I think I'm going to be doing that. I'm going to be doing several of those, you know. So for all you music heads out there, you know, this will be something for you to, you know, geek out with me too. And I'm gonna jump around too. I'm not just gonna specify or stick with only one, you know, set of games or one whatever. I'm gonna jump all over fighting games, and then eventually I'm just gonna transition into games in general, or action games probably, you know. Um, but yeah, that's really it. I mean, of course, I'm working on War of the Gods. I've been stockpiling issues, so I'm almost done with my stockpile. So, you know, the middle of next month, probably the end of this month and the middle of next month will be all the different releases, and then, you know, by the beginning of the year we'll have some more releases as well. So 2 through 5 should be out, you know, like in succession by the you know, the beginning of the year, which is cool because this is what I've been working on, you know. So you know, if anything happens, at least issues 2 through 3, which is issue 2A and 2B, and then part 3, they should or issue 3, they should be out, you know, by the end of the year. So yeah, man, that's pretty much, or guys and girls and my ninjas and ninjettes, etc., etc. That's what I'm working on. I figured I would just throw in a little update for you guys, and yeah, that's really all that I got to tell you about. So stay tuned for the next vid. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for sticking with me this long, and hopefully you'll enjoy the new stuff that's coming. All right, peace outside, guys.